Hi there, I'm Richard Durrant. I'm the Principal Consultant for Adler and Allan on site in Poole Harbour. We're here in Poole Harbour responding to the loss of crude oil, which has occurred from a pipeline which runs from their well site in the background here. The initial loss was a combination of crude oil and reservoir fluid mix at about 200 barrels is estimated to have been lost. Adler and Allan were appointed by Poole Harbour Commission to deal with the wider impacts to Poole Harbour, looking at notifications for sheens and potential impacts within the wider Poole Harbour itself, and so we provided support for that. That then transitioned into becoming directly involved in site with the actual cleanup process, which was a combination of absorbance, skimming operations, and direct recovery of the crude oil. Adler and Allan were approached to discuss the next steps and determine the potential impacts of the wider salt marsh. As part of the investigation, we've carried out a combination of sediment sampling, surface water sampling, and groundwater monitoring to determine the lateral and horizontal extent of the impact. We have also been looking at some of the ecologically sensitive features of the site, including unique flora and fauna and the presence of protected species. Once we gathered and processed all of our data, we had come down to two distinct zones of impact, right up in close proximity to the point of loss. The concentrations of crude oil in those sediments was around 8% at its highest. Where we had had the loss directly within the salt marsh itself, the crude oil mix had binded to the really high level organics that were present within the salt marsh. It was deemed that the crude oil would present a long-term risk to the ecologically sensitive habitats on site, as well as to the wider risks to human health and the environment of Poole Harbour. We produced the Remediation's options appraisal and the remediation strategy, which looked at the best approaches to achieving this outcome. It was deemed that a 400mm surface scrape was the most appropriate method for removing the long-term risk that the crude oil left in situ would present, and it could present for long periods of time, decades. Some of the particularly technical elements of this job comprised of managing water, which was very key. We've got a combination of tidal ranges pushing onto site and flooding. We also have the impact of rainfall flowing directly onto site through surface water bodies. So in order to manage that, we have set up a process of dewatering site, which comprises pumping directly from Zone 1 into Zone 2 under consent from Natural England and with suitable mitigation measures. We also have some rain for rents on site to give us the ability to dewater in unsociable hours. Works were then scheduled for neat tide windows where the tidal range was suitably low enough that we could provide safe access into the site, start installing our bob mats, and start taking out the material. The material that's coming out is transferred into a waste area where we can drain off some of the liquids and then the solids are going off for further treatment. The solid waste is not going for landfill, instead will be treated as windrows, which will strip out some of the impact over a long period of time and then can be reused for something suitable. We're approximately halfway through the process at the moment. We're dealing with Zone 1, which is the worst of the impact. We've got some subsequent works to do in Zone 2, which is the channel that runs from the point of loss down towards Poole Harbour. Alongside all of the activities taking place, we've also got a programme of surface water monitoring, visual observations, visual checks, just to make sure that the activities we're carrying out on the site don't release any oil sheens that could possibly migrate further on. So we've got a combination of absorbent booms, fence booms, those kinds of things to act as a physical barrier to make sure we don't have any further migration. We've also, because of the ecologically sensitive nature of the site, got ecologists and an ecological watching brief set up, just to make sure that the activities taking place are taking place in accordance with best practice and consideration for the site's unique flora and fauna. Once we've completed the surface scrape exercise, we'll then transition into the monitoring phase of works. The monitoring phase of works will look at sort of 2 to 3 years at present and will comprise a combination of surface water monitoring throughout the site, just to ensure that we've removed the impact and that if any hotspots or residuals remain, they don't present any further risk. We also have some groundwater monitoring alongside that, as well as ecological surveys, which are going to look at the recovery of the site itself. So once we finish the surface scrape, the site will actually be left. We're not planning to backfill any of the materials, and we're going to monitor the process of recovery over time.